What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update. Today we've got the Irish Hotspur, David Harris. I was going to say in the house, but it's not really in the house, but we'll still call it in the house. How you doing, Dave?
Yeah, I'm all good, Benji. I'm all good. Thanks very much for having me, and hopefully we can shed some light on some of the news that's out here today.
Yeah, and first of all, we're going to talk about the sporting director situation. And reports in Germany are claiming that Tottenham remain interested in Bayern Munich technical director Marco Neppe. Nothing is decided. Neppe has been planning the Bayern squad for next season as of yesterday, but there is interest in there from Tottenham Hotspur. So what do you make out of this one?
I'm not so sure he's going to leave Bayern and come to Tottenham Hotspur, if you want me to be brutally honest. I think Bayern would it'd be a huge mistake for Bayern Munich to let this guy go. This guy was in charge of bringing Jamal Musiala to Bayern Munich amongst others. So, and with Bayern Munich, Ben, I do know that the reason why they ended up going down the Nagelsmann route and bringing in the likes of Gravenberch and Mazraoui and everything else as well is because during the pandemic and after, they came out of it financially strapped. So they had to go down this route. And for me, it doesn't make sense for them to let someone like Neppe go, who is, identifying young talents, the likes of Jamal Musiala and people like that. So I don't see this one happening, if you want me to be brutally honest. I would think if Nagelsmann was in the running for the Spurs job, I think there might be a possibility of this one happening, but I don't think so. I think it'll end up staying at Bayern.
Just run with me on this one for a second. Let's say, for example, he does, we can persuade him to come, yeah? Do you think that puts Nagelsmann back on the table?
Yeah, I think look, you never know with this football club, Ben, that we support, because, it makes sense to have two people where their philosophies align, this, that, and the other. And we know that Julian Nagelsmann wanted to know who the director of football would be before he signed. So I think, look, it could put him back in the running. But at Tottenham, we don't do things that make sense. And for me, it wouldn't be surprised to see us sign Postecoglou and then bring in a director of football who has a complete different vision. It just would not surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so frustrating, isn't it, the way that this football club is run. I mean, I think because the reports coming out about Neppe, apparently they are tier one sources and they are quite reliable sources out in Germany. So, I mean, maybe it's one to keep an eye on, but I kind of think the same as you. I don't think this one is going to happen, and it just makes too much sense with Nagelsmann there and available and ready to come. It just makes absolute sense that we bring in a sporting director that has worked with him before, that clearly they have some sort of synergy, because he did join Bayern Munich whilst he was there. But as you say, we don't do things the simple way at Tottenham. So I think we can move swiftly on from this one. Let's talk about the manager situation next. And we're going to talk about Marcelo Gallardo just before we get onto your man. And Sammy Mokbel says that Gallardo could emerge as a late option for Tottenham if the saga continues to drag on. Do you see this one being a possibility?
I wouldn't rule it out, Ben. This is a guy that's sort of been linked for some time now. I think he was even linked when we, talked about when we got Conte, even when we got as far back as Nuno. And look, I can understand why a lot of people would want to take a risk on him, because look, that's essentially what he is. He hasn't managed outside of, South America. So for me, it's a huge risk, and I think people would be more behind this than they would behind an Ange Postecoglou, because where he's from is more of a respected football nation than where Ange Postecoglou is from. So I can understand why people maybe would want to take more of a gamble on this guy. Look, this guy's very tactically astute, very, very tactically astute. And it wouldn't be a bad gamble to take. The only reservations I might have is, how much of a grasp of the English language does he have? Because we know in previous years, Ben, especially under Santini, the problems that ended up bringing with him not being able to speak the language. Martin Jol was left sort of trying to translate everything to the players, and he ended up getting the job. So for me, I think, look, he's on the table. I'm just not sure Spurs will hammer home their interest in this guy. I think we're all set for Ange, to be honest.
But on Gallardo, I mean, on the English thing, I mean, Pochettino didn't exactly speak the best English when he came into the job, did he? And we all know what happened with him. And I'm a massive fan from what I've read up and what I've seen from Gallardo. I mean, he has been regarded as the best manager the South American football has ever seen. And I mean, to have that tag on your name, you've got to be some sort of a manager. And as you say, very tactically astute, very fluid in his tactics. It's not like he's married just to one tactic. He looks at the opposition and plans an attack for those kind of games. He's very much an attacking manager as well. And he focuses very much on bringing through youth. And also the age as well. At 47 years of age, he is a fairly young manager compared to an Ange Postecoglou. So I kind of think he does tick all the boxes apart from his experiences not being able to manage anywhere in Europe. So I actually think he does tick most of the boxes there.
I think when you look at a lot of the recruitment we've done under Paratici, a lot of it was 25 or under, and he lowered the average age of the squad. You've got a lot of sort of young players out on loan at the minute. Then you've also got some players that we signed for the under-21s in recent years, and also some of the under-17s and 18s coming through that won the Premier League Cup. So for me, it would make sense to bring someone like that in who does want to, go sort of young, orientated players that are impressionable, that will listen to his message and get out there and do the work, players that want to make an imprint in the game. So it makes sense for Tottenham to do that. But again, Tottenham don't do things that make sense, Ben. And this is the whole problem. But look, I ask you, Ben, and I think it's a valid question. Why do you think no one has took a gamble on this guy so far then?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that he's been heavily linked to the Barcelona job in the past. He's been heavily linked to coming to the Premier League and other clubs in Spain as well. He only left River Plate, I think, what was it, a year ago or 6 months ago? I can't remember when it was. Maybe it was a year and a half, maybe in December. Maybe he wanted time out of the game. I don't know. It's an interesting question, isn't it? But it's anyone's belief. I don't know, like, his personal situation. Did he want to come over to Europe straight away? Look, these things are very much up in the air. We don't know the answers to these questions, but it's an interesting one, isn't it? Do you know any sort of idea why?
No, I haven't a clue why, to be honest with you, Ben. Look, he definitely, people in Europe are definitely aware of him. He's had some great success in South America. I just can't put my finger on why no one has took the gamble to sort of bring him across yet. Someone will eventually, and they'll probably reap the benefits of taking that gamble. I just don't know why, and it's just a question I have. If he's so highly rated amongst the football fraternity, why has no one brought this guy to Europe yet?
I've even heard Pep Guardiola speaking about him as well, and speaking about the amazing job that he has done out in South America. So maybe he could be one of the heirs to the Man City throne if Pep Guardiola rates him that highly.
Yeah, Alvarez would love that. He'd definitely benefit from that, wouldn't he?
Exactly. And also the kind of players that he can bring in, seeing them firsthand week in, week out in South America. I'm sure there's loads of talent you can get out in South America that are fairly cheap as well.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot out there in South America. For me, you look at the Argentinian spirit from the World Cup, their doggedness, their togetherness and stuff like that. We should already have scouts in Argentina. We should already have scouts in South America. Well, actually, we did, but he came out and revealed who we were going after, so he ended up getting sacked. But, we should definitely, it's a market we should be looking at that. We should be looking to, especially at the younger players, look to bring them over here and develop them. Now, I know we tried that with one fight, but look, we brought one fight in here. It didn't work out sort of under Pochettino. Pochettino was starting to give him maybe a bit of a chance towards the end, but then that never fully, came to fruition, and we sort of just put him out on loan and forgot about him. Then he ended up signing for Villarreal. So for me, you've got to, if you're going to start bringing these players over, you have to start plotting a pathway for them, a development plan with eventually that ends up in the first team. Because you look at one fight, we let him go. He went on to win a UEFA Cup. We can't keep letting this happen. We can't keep bringing in young players from all over the place and, not having any development plan for them, sending them out elsewhere. Prime example, Gil Messi, not good enough for Tottenham, but goes on and wins the UEFA Cup for Sevilla. This can't keep happening. If we are going to start hitting up these sort of markets, which we need to, we have to have a development plan for all these guys when they get here.
Yeah, and I thought at the time selling Juan Foyth was a complete mistake. I really rated him at his time at Spurs. I really saw good value in him. But also on Gallardo, Ozzy Ardiles apparently has personally told the Tottenham board that, what a great manager he is, and they think that they should sign him. But we don't listen to footballing people on this board, so you can probably count that one out, to be honest. But let's talk about Ange Postecoglou next. Sammy Mokbel says that Postecoglou is open to taking over at Tottenham. Miguel Delaney says that Tottenham want to make a manager appointment in the next 10 to 14 days with Ange Postecoglou, one of the leading candidates. Sky Sports saying that Postecoglou is emerging as the preferred candidate for Tottenham Hotspur, and Fabrizio Romano says that Postecoglou is the leading candidate for Tottenham, and Spurs are waiting for the conclusion of Celtic's cup final before making any official approach to Celtic.
Well, Ben, this one has survived your curse. So you'd be
not yet.
Be absolutely delighted to hear that this one's going to happen. Look, for me, I get that many fans are in uproar about this name even being mentioned with Tottenham Hotspur, and I get it. But he got the same reaction at Celtic when they hired him there first. They were expecting Eddie Howe to walk in the door. It didn't happen. They brought in Ange Postecoglou. And everyone was like, who's that guy? You know, Rangers fans were absolutely loving it. You know, they were bantering Celtic, this, that, and the other. Alan Brazil famously went in hard on him on TalkSport. At the end of the season, when Ange Postecoglou won the league, he had to come out and apologise. And this is the thing with Ange, Ben. He comes in, everyone, the media, the fans, everyone's, who's this, they're in uproar. While they're over there doing that, he's behind the scenes getting the players, the staff, and himself and the management team together, and they're creating a culture of it's us v them. Forget about the outside noise, focus on us. And look, that's what the majority of Spurs fans want. You know, they want a manager that's going to focus on us. They want a manager where his tactics focus on what we do. And that's what Ange Postecoglou is going to give you. He's going to go out and he's going to try and win every game playing on the front foot, attacking football. And look, that's what many fans wanted, especially when Jose Mourinho and Conte were here. They didn't want tactics that were focused on the opposition, that worried on the opposition. They wanted tactics that focused on getting the best out of our players, especially the star players in our team or the best players in our team. And that's what Ange Postecoglou will do when he comes in here. Now, another great thing about Ange is his man management, Ben. He's a brilliant man manager. And despite, you know, what people say about it being the Australian League, the Australian national team, or the J League or Celtic, in modern football, how many managers struggle to walk into a club and get the players on board and get them buying into his idea and stuff like that? Well, Ange Postecoglou has done it every single place he has gone to. And for me, you can't overlook that, the fact that so many players buy into what he's doing. You could even argue the case that walking into Celtic, them players could have just down tools, don't respect you, didn't even know who you were, this, that, and the other, but they didn't, you know, and they got behind him. So for me, the fact that everyone gets behind what he wants to do shows that he's a good manager. But what I love most about him, Ben, we're actually speaking about this beforehand, was he'll have no problem calling out Arsenal, mocking Arsenal, you know, throwing little digs out there every opportunity he gets. He'll also start mentioning some of our history, some of the great legends, you know, in years gone by. And he will ask the fans to sort of, you know, get behind that, but he'll ask the players to emulate it. And I think this guy will get fans on board very, very quickly. It's what he's done at Celtic, you know, and everyone that sort of came out and spoke bad about the guy, they were all wrong. Now, at Celtic, his job didn't get off to the great start. The first 10 games were rocky. They went out to Champions League early, etc. But from that period, once he got his feet in on the table and players really understood what he's asking for, he went on and dominated that Scottish League. He ended up pumping Rangers when they were on a 13-match unbeaten streak with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. They won a double that year. And this year, they've gone on and they're looking to complete a treble, which hopefully will be done this weekend. So for me, I get that many people say he's an uninspiring choice. I get that many people say the egos in the Tottenham dressing room are difficult to deal with compared to the ones at Celtic. And I get that people may, you know, think he's tactically naive. But Ben, I was saying this to you last night. For me, what he will do, Ange Postecoglou, is I don't believe he's going to come in here and win trophies. But we're not at that point now. We're at a point where we need this to be rebuilt, remodeled. And Ange Postecoglou will do that. He'll change Tottenham from being, you know, a defensive poor team that sits back off everybody, lets everyone have their way with them, to a team that's just going to have a go every single game. And then for me, I'm all for the appointment if he comes in. It actually excites me a little.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't be excited if we sign Ange Postecoglou as manager, because I've seen the football that Celtic play, and it is really exciting, front foot, gung-ho football. And look, at Spurs, that's what we want to get back to, or somewhat getting back to. But the fact of the matter is, even in that Celtic team, even in the SPL, when they're hands down the best team in that league, they concede way too many goals for my liking. I think they've conceded 34 goals in the SPL this year, which is probably, I think, the most that they've conceded in the last few years. And they're going to win a treble this year. So I think my reservations are massively high on how he's going to get our defence to concede less than what we did this year. Because this year was an absolute disgrace. That was under Antonio Conte, when it was defence first, of how many goals we conceded. And what you alluded to before as well about how he gets players on side. I mean, yeah, it's all well and good getting players in Celtic on side, getting Yokohama's on side in the J-League and teams in Australia as well. But Tottenham, the players at Tottenham have a history of throwing managers under the bus. So do you not think at maybe the first sign of trouble under Ange Postecoglou that they're going to do it to him as well?
Yeah, 100%, Ben. But we could make that argument under, Nagelsmann if he was to come in here. You could make that argument if Poch was to come back, whatever. The reality is, we need an overhaul of that squad. We need an overhaul of that backline. And regardless of the manager walking in here, it has to happen. It has to happen. Now, my only fear is that with Ange Postecoglou, I do feel like Levy would look at him as someone he can mess around with a bit in terms of, not bringing players in and just asking them to get the best out of others. I do think that Daniel Levy could mess him around a bit, whereas if a Nagelsmann came in, I don't think that Daniel Levy, because of his reputation in the game and the fact that he has that reporter misses with him, I don't think Daniel Levy would get away with messing someone like him around, but he would with Ange Postecoglou, and that is a fear of mine. But look, let's be real about this situation. That back line is the worst that there's ever been in Tottenham's history. That's a fact with the amount of goals we've conceded this year. And it needs to be overhauled regardless of the manager. We know we need better defenders. So for me, that has to be done regardless. I get that people are concerned about us being tactically naive and stuff, but what the fans want? What do they want? They were sick of us sitting back, with games. They were like, we know our defence is crap, so let's just, go on the front foot, tackle football and play to our strengths. Well, this is what Andrew's going to come in and do.
Yeah, I think that as much as whatever the fans were saying under Antonio Conte, I think it was more out of frustration because of what we've had to go through with the likes of Nuno, with the likes of Jose, with the likes of Conte, where it's very much been defence first before anything else. People want to get back to what we saw under Pochettino. What we had under Pochettino was a very solid defence and a very good attack. That's what we need to get back to. And will Ange Postecoglou represent that?
He'll definitely get us scoring a lot of goals, that's for sure. That's one thing that's guaranteed. I hear your reservations over the back line, I really do. It's probably one of his biggest weaknesses, but, he just wants to go out and outscore teams. Now, are you going to survive like that in the Premier League? No, but we got to understand where we are right now. Even me, people like to call me deluded and stuff because I like to try and believe we can win trophies every year. I get that feeling at the start of the season, new season, who knows what can happen. But the reality is, we ain't winning a trophy next year. We ain't winning a trophy for another couple of years. We need a whole reset. We need to get rid of the Poch culture, that's been left to rot here for quite some years. You hear Mason coming out and speaking about getting back to the Poch standards, this, that, and the other. You hear Kane coming out and speaking out about it. But when Poch was here, a lot of them players were fed up after the Champions League final of Pochettino's methods and everything else. Now they're pining back for it again. What do they want? At the end of the day, we need a full reset at this football club, and that means getting rid of players that have a hold of this football club in terms of the dressing room. A Dyer, a Sanchez, a Davies. Lucas Moura is already on his way out. Hugo Lloris is on his way out. Bar Hugo Lloris, you'd say a lot of them other players were never really star players under Pochettino. But under every manager since, they've had to play them because they've not. We haven't invested across that back line. So for me, once you get rid of a lot of that and players that dictate that changing room, that dictate the culture, and dictate because they're there that long, they're friends with Daniel Levy, to dictate what managers in the dugout. Once you get rid of that, every player has no excuse but to buy in for the new manager. They have to. They're not going to keep getting away with this for much longer. Fans are already waking up to these players. And for me, I think Ange is the sort of guy that will just walk in and he'll see that straight away. And he'll be like, look, you're out. That's it. No second chances. And Ben, you will love this. They ask him what your plan B is. Do plan A better. How's that for a catch?
I'm not going to lie. After we spoke last night, Dave, I had a nightmare last night, and it was Ange Postecoglou was our manager, and Eric Dyer was still at the back. I mean, can you imagine those two just cannot go together?
He won't tolerate it. He will not tolerate it with Dyer. He won't. Well, actually, unless we sign centre backs, maybe he will. But for me, even if we have to keep Eric Dyer, just put him to the side and bring up Alfie Dorrington. Make a statement. If others look around and say, well, he's going to do that. If he can do that to Dyer, who's been protected here for so long, imagine what he can do to me. And then all of a sudden it creates getting people on side. It creates people in fear for their job, in fear for their position at Tottenham Hotspur. And you start seeing people then pulling their weight, which is all we want. And Postecoglou will get these players pulling their weight. He will get these players playing for the jersey. And right now, with as bad as things want, all I want next season is a team that are going to pull their weight, play for the jersey, and look to go and win games. That's all I want. People that rock up to places with a bit of swag. It's like, yeah, you're a good team. You may score 3, but we're going to score 4 or 5. And it's sad, Ben, but this is where we're at as a football club. I'd love to be sitting here talking about Nagelsmann. I'd love to be sitting here talking about the return of Pochettino. But we're so far down the list. Whether it's Brendan Rodgers, whether it's Ange Postecoglou, the next signing is going to be underwhelming for many Spurs fans. And it's just about picking what you think is the best out of them uninspiring signings.
Fair enough. Let's talk about some players now, and let's talk about Harry Kane, as Bild are reporting that Harry Kane has rejected an offer from Bayern Munich for the summer. I mean, that doesn't really surprise us, does it?
It does a little, because I don't believe that Daniel Levy is going to sell to Man United this year. In fairness, he refused to sell Gareth Bale there. He refused to sell Modric to Chelsea. And it doesn't make sense that Tottenham sell their star asset, the best striker in world football, to a team that they're going to try, that they need to claw back on and catch for top 4. Why would you strengthen them and weaken us severely and create an even bigger gap? It does not make sense to do that. So for me, Harry Kane's option, if he wants out this summer, has to be somewhere across Europe. So if not Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. I believe if Real Madrid come calling and Benzema makes that move out to Saudi Arabia, no one turns down Real Madrid. Not even David Beckham when he was winning trophies at Man United, this, that, and the other. So for me, I do fear if Real Madrid come calling.
Poch turned down Real Madrid apparently when he was Spurs manager.
I don't believe that. Lad. If Real Madrid come calling, you go. It's a different footballing entity altogether. It's the Galacticos. But look, Harry Kane, for me, I think I believe the club when they say they're not going to sell him this summer. They are going to look to keep him here. And look, if he ends up leaving at the end of his time next season, so be it. But what I will say is they better have that back line in place. For me, we're in a position right now, Ben, where you can't let Harry Kane go. If you let your source of goals go, which is the one that's kept you up in the table where we are right now, which is 8, which is very, very sad, you then have a bigger problem where you take them goals and you're still conceding the amount of goals you are. It's a recipe for absolute disaster. You look at Leicester. Brendan Rodgers sort of tried to take Jamie Vardy out of the team this year. No one stepped up, replicated them goals. Their back line was rot over the years. And they ended up in a relegation, and they ended up getting relegated very, very quickly that no one seen coming. We let Harry Kane go this summer without doing that back line, without getting a better midfield in place. We could very easily suffer the same fate. You take away Harry Kane's equalisers and winners this season, which has amassed us 27 points. That puts us just above Everton in the relegation battle. But yet they've conceded less goals than us this season. So it's a warning. I'm just sending out a warning thing to Tottenham. I'm not saying Tottenham are not going to survive without Harry Kane. We've survived without Modric and Gareth Bale. But right now, when you've got a leaky defence the way you do, and you take your main source of goals out of the team, all of a sudden you're conceding more goals than you score. And it doesn't take a rocket science to work out. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and actually, I agree totally with what you're saying. And when you compare Harry Kane to Modric and Gareth Bale at the times that we sold them, Harry Kane is a lot more important to us now than Modric was then and Gareth Bale was then as well. I mean, just look at the percentage of goals and assists he's given us throughout the years of the goals that we're scoring. So yeah, I completely agree. But back on your point about Real Madrid, I mean, I disagree with that. I don't think Kane has any interest in going outside of England right now. And And I don't think he's desperate to leave Tottenham. Just for the fact of the matter is, he knows he just has to struggle one more year at Tottenham, and then he has the pick of anywhere he wants to go, whether that be in England. If he does want to go outside of Europe, he can go there for a free transfer. He gets a massive signing on fee as well, and he'll get absolutely humongous wages to match it. So I think I don't think Harry Kane is stressing out at the moment. I think he's very relaxed. He's going to see what goes on at Tottenham over the summer, probably spend another year with us, and then assess it at the end of next season. And that contract is not going to get signed. If we're going the same way as we're going, he'll just leave on a free. He'll go to Man United. He'll go to Chelsea. He'll go to someone like that, and he'll be very, very rich man as well.
Yeah, look, you make a good point there. He can use that money, because when you sign on a free, you usually get a percentage of your transfer fee and the signing on bonus. He probably use that to set himself up in America to become the NFL kicker he wants to be after his football career ends. Look, for me, I know there's a lot of media and everything else around Harry Kane right now this summer, but I agree with you. It's sort of, I think, unless Real Madrid really come calling and put money on the table, I think he's here this summer. I think we'll see him in a Tottenham jersey next season. Plus, he's emotional. He's sort of end of season, walk around and stuff was nowhere near as emotional as it was 2 years ago, which makes me believe he also knows he'll be here this summer. You also hear Porro, Kulusevski, Emerson coming out lately speaking about Harry Kane, and they all seem to sort of really like him and that he's very, very popular. So for me, I think if I'm Harry Kane, I stay here this summer and I reevaluate. I give Tottenham the chance, a club that's given so much to Harry Kane. I get he's given so much to us, but we've given him a career as well. I think if I'm Harry Kane, I give Tottenham a chance up until the January transfer window to prove that they can sort this mess out, make the right decisions, and head in the right direction.
Next up, let's talk about Ivan Perisic. Calcio Mercato are saying that Ivan Perisic regrets joining Tottenham and has already discussed potentially returning to Inter Milan with director Marotta and former teammates at the club. His salary is a potential stumbling block. However, Perisic is very keen to return to Inter. You happy he's off in the summer? You think he's going to be off in the summer?
Yeah, I think he's out of here, Ben. I mean, he's definitely regretting it. Should have in a Champions League final, so he's definitely regretting it. Look, I said to people, when we had Ryan Sessegnon there, when we had Reguilon there, people were not happy with the attacking output. Perisic has come here and has provided that. Now, I get there's problems with him defensively, but if we had a solid defence in place across that back three, his defensive frailties, and same as Porro's, would not be as highlighted as much. But we're getting into a situation at Tottenham where we ridicule players for not being able to attack, but then we ridicule players for not being able to defend. And it's sort of like, what do we actually want to see at this football club? And for me, look, Perisic, he came here, he tried. For me, I don't blame him. He came here in a tumultuous period. What can he do, Ben? At the end of the day, he's leaving here with a few assists to his name. Could have been more, maybe a few more goals in there. But overall, I think he's done all right at Tottenham. And I'll be sad to see him go.
Yeah, look, he has done all right, but I think I was expecting more from Perisic, to be honest, at the club. And I think that, a large number of those assists that he did get, what did he get, 11 or 12 assists this season in all competitions or something like that? A large number of those assists were set pieces. And I think that's where he really earned his money for us this season. And from open play, I'm not going to lie, I've been pretty disappointed with Perisic on a whole. I mean, we have seen a few games here and there, but nothing on a consistent level week in, week out from Ivan Perisic. And that's what's disappointed me a bit. But what's really kind of impressed me with Ivan Perisic is his set pieces and how successful they have been and how many assists we have been able to grab from his corners and free kicks and stuff like that. But I don't think we're losing much with letting Perisic go. And I think we probably got him a few years too late. I mean, he's so old now anyway. So, what more can he give us? Let's be honest.
Yeah, look, it was sort of, Perisic himself wanted to come to the Premier League. Conte brought him here. I think many people forget he came here carrying an injury and it had a knock-on effect into the start of the season and stuff like that. Then you have the World Cup on top of that. And then you have the, Tottenham, things at Tottenham going horrifically wrong. So it's been an absolute chaos season for him. But, for me, he's not one of them players that has stood there throwing his hands around, blaming everyone else, throwing his toys out the pram. It's just, he sort of just put his head down and gets on with it. And for me, I like players like that, you know. I get what you're saying about the set pieces, but how many years at Tottenham have we not seen players being able to take set pieces? You know, I remember Gio Lo Celso going off to take corners, and he can't even get the ball off the ground. You know what I mean? So for me, like, I think, look, Perisic, look, it is what it is. It was a gamble. It hasn't worked out. It hasn't paid off. But, you know, I don't think he's been as bad as many people make it out to be. I don't think it's been as disastrous as many people make it out to be. He has added something in his time here.
All right, let's move on and let's talk about Samuel Chukwueze of Villarreal, as Relevo are claiming that Villarreal have offered Tottenham Samuel Chukwueze in exchange for Giovanni Lo Celso plus cash, and Spurs are now considering the offer. I mean, I'm looking at his numbers now. I mean, he is 24 years of age. This season, 6 goals, 6 assists in 36 games. Last year, 3 goals, 3 assists in 27 games. The year before, 4 goals, 2 assists in 28 games. I mean, he doesn't exactly smash in the numbers, does he?
No, look, for me, if Tottenham accept this, I'll be an absolute outrage. I will be, Ben. I mean, like, we're at a point, you give us what we're asking for our players, or you take a bit of a price reduction and just let that player go. What you don't want is clogging up the books with guys, you know, as part of a make-weight for a deal, you know, that's going to come in here, and it's not really going to do anything more than what Steven Bergwijn has done at Tottenham, for instance. For me, it's a complete waste of time. I don't want him anywhere near the club. The club should have their own targets, and that's who they should be bringing in here. Not adapting the books to be able to bring in a guy just to offload a player when they won't adapt the books to bring in players when we do need them. So for me, I think if they end up bringing this guy in as part of a swap deal, they've made a rod off their own back.
It's an interesting one with him, though, because, like, cast your mind back 3-4 years when he was 20-21. He was actually making waves in Europe, and, you know, people were talking about him as one of the next big things, up-and-coming talents out of the Spanish league. And, you know, obviously he's Nigerian and he gets called up there quite regularly, but it just hasn't seemed to happen for him, one thing or another. Do you think maybe under a new environment he can kick on, maybe?
Look, there's always that potential, but for me, Ben, I think he's sort of leveling out to the player he's going to be. I don't think you're going to get much more out of this guy. I really don't believe it.
Fair enough. Let's talk about the last story of the update. And Ali Gold has brought us that Tottenham are set to discuss a proposal for a statue of Bill Nicholson and the repurposing of the iconic White Hart Lane gates at the first meeting of the new fan advisory board in July. Something that fans have been calling for a while.
Yeah, it's about time, Ben, you know, that fans can start walking towards the stadium and being reminded of the history of the football club. That has not been there. It's a bit soulless sort of walking up to the stadium. There's no reminder of, you know, great nights that have been seen at Tottenham Hotspur before that, you know, and it's about time, but it's a few years too late, Ben. Like, you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts about ex-professional players, and they all talk about White Hart Lane as being one of the greatest grounds to go to, especially as an away player. Everyone's so close to the pitch, the atmosphere. But, you know, in order to recreate the atmosphere in the new stadium, there was no dialogue with fans. It was all about acoustic experts, soundboards, this, that, and the
corporates.
Other. You know, corporates. But if he would have spoke to the fan about bringing the new atmosphere and stuff, fans would have said, yeah, well, you know, in order to help create that, you know, to get people buzzing coming into the ground, you put some of our history, you know, in and around the ground. So when fans are walking up, they're already inspired, they're already reminded of great nights, and they go out there and they get fully behind that football team. Look, they made a start by bringing back the clock with the cockerel. Them gates were removed in 2015, and we were told they were being removed for repurposing, to be repurposed. So why is it taking so long for that to be done? But also, I thought they didn't want to do statues. So, you know, it's good that they've done a U-turn and they are bringing a building statue to Tottenham, because it's what every fan wanted. It's what every fan has talked about getting some of our history back around there. You know, the reason why they didn't want to do it is because they didn't want Beyonce fans walking up there because, you know, talking about building it, because they're just going to ignore the statue. And because they were turning it into a multi-sports venue, they don't want to have history of the football club in and around it. But when times are bad and fans are angry, they got to do what the fans want, and it's good to see them doing it.
Yeah, it is. And do you think it's maybe also something to show at Harry Kane, like, this is what you can have one day, this is what you can have one day if you stay at the football club? Is this a way of kind of trying to twist Harry Kane's arm from behind his back?
Look, it could be. It could be. But for me, if I'm Harry Kane, a statue's not enough. You know, at this stage of the career, I look at Gil, he leaves Tottenham, he goes to Sevilla, he wins the European Cup. It's one more than what Harry Kane has won in his career now at this point. If I'm Harry Kane, it's all about, you know, going on and lifting that trophy. I couldn't give a shit about statues or anything like that. I just want to get over the line. And I'm sure Harry Kane feels like he's cursed as well, you know, that anytime big occasions do come round, he hasn't exactly sort of brought himself to the party either. So for me, I think with Harry Kane, it is all about, you know, trophies, but at the same time, it shouldn't be a statue that keeps him here. They should be going to him. You're going to be club captain. You're going to be the face of this club. You're going to be the face of the new era. We're going to lean on your qualities and your experience to be able to drag some of these younger players with you. It's all you, Harry Kane. You're the guy at Tottenham now. Whether to do that or not, I'm not so sure. But look, forget about Harry Kane. It's great to see some of our legends starting to be honoured in the way that they should have been honoured a long time ago, Ben.
Yeah, and you know what they should be doing for more? I mean, Steve Perryman, you know, most apps at this football club, most appearances. Jimmy Greaves, the one who was just before Harry Kane in the goal-scoring charts. Danny Blanchflower. I mean, there are so many players which they can honour, and Bill Nicholson obviously is a great starting point. So let's hope that they do carry on after this. But Dave, thank you so much for coming and joining on the Tottenham update today. Go and subscribe to the Irish Hotspur. Are there any interesting shows coming out in the coming days?
Yeah, Saturday I'll be putting out a stream of me, you know, going in depth on some of the players from the relegation teams that I think Tottenham should probably take a look at. And I'm looking at players that will actually come in and improve the situation at Tottenham, not just a player that I like. And then Sunday, I'm also putting out a stream. I've designed a few of my own kits because I do not like Nike kits whatsoever. I absolutely hate them. So I've designed a few of my own jerseys. So I'll be putting out my concept kit designs. And then I'm sure over today and tomorrow there'll be stuff out on current news, the Kane situation, Postecoglou, stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to hear more of me, yeah, check me over out at the Irish Hotspur.
It's interesting because go on. What were you about to say?
I just want to say, you know, to the We Are Tottenham TV supporters out there, thanks very much for, you know, tuning in to the pre-match build-ups all season long. I really do appreciate the support you guys have given me on this channel. So thanks very much.
No, it's been great having you, second season in a row, and hopefully more to come next season. But it's interesting what you say about the video about your players from the relegated teams. So I'm looking at my list right here. I've got a list about 15 players from the 3 clubs. I'm about to do a list as well, a video on that. So it'll be interesting to see what are the crossovers on this list. But we'll speak to you very soon, Dave. Thank you for coming on. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.